Geek Makeup Wisdom.
What up, Booskies? My name is Mika Oba. For those who don't know me, I am the founder of Geek Makeup Wisdom, my company which helps people become cosmetic chemists. And in today's video, I am going to talk about how I became a cosmetic chemist. So a little bit about me. I've been formulating in the cosmetic and pharmaceutical industry for about, give or take, 8 years, including the internship that I'm going to talk about. And I've worked in color cosmetics, in skincare, but definitely my forte is more skincare products, and that's what I've mostly been formulating. And also it relates to my experience working as a formulator in the pharmaceutical industry. My experience entails formulating skincare products, working at 2 small contract manufacturers, and then working on product development for both skincare and color cosmetics for a big brand. So I have experience working in a wide range of formulation and product development of different types of products in cosmetics, and I've also worked in formulation for topical RX products. So while working on Geek Makeup Wisdom on the side, I am still a full-time formulator for a company. So with that said, I do have to make the disclaimer that everything I say on this video, on this channel, on my website, geekmakeupwisdom.com, are all said by me and represent only my company, Geek Makeup Wisdom, and not that of my employer. So let's get right to it. Okay, so back when I was an undergrad at UC Davis, I already knew that I wanted to become a cosmetic chemist, but unfortunately, the career was still not as heard of as today and a lot more niche. And so my counselors had no idea how to guide me into becoming a cosmetic chemist because our university didn't have any internship programs or relationships with cosmetic companies that existed in Northern California. And so I was really stuck and I had no one to turn to except the internet. So 3 sources that I really relied on for cosmetic chemistry when I was an undergrad was the Swift Crafty Monkey blog. Sounds really funny, but it actually is a really good blog on formulating, especially at home. ChemistCorner.com by Perry Romanowski, and Rebecca Gadbury's UCLA extension class on skincare ingredients, which I believe doesn't exist anymore because I've looked for the class a few times when I was recommending it to students, but I don't think it's around anymore, which is a shame because it was really fun. Swift Crafty Monkey was a really good blog for me because it actually talked about different ingredients, not from necessarily and always a skincare standpoint, but how to use it and how to cook with it to make different types of skincare products. And I just ate up that blog and I was so fascinated and I wanted to copy everything that the blog author was doing, Susan, but I couldn't because I was broke as and I couldn't afford any equipment. I was one of those students who was just trying to get by with part-time income while going to full-time school and just eating ramen so I can save enough money for rent and utilities. So yay, broke college student, couldn't formulate. So that really sucked. I couldn't experiment in my kitchen and try to apply anything that I learned from the internet to make my own products. I just was too broke to do so. ChemistCorner.com ended up being a really useful resource for me because it directed me to the Society of Cosmetic Chemists, where I became a student member, and I really couldn't get involved because all of the meetings were in Southern California, and again, broke college student, I couldn't afford anything, so I couldn't afford going to the meetings, but I did get access to the Journal of Cosmetic Science, which was super insightful, and it was really fun to read what kind of research was going on in cosmetics and what kind of the hot topics were at the time. So that kept me aware of what was going on in the industry. Aside from all the marketing buzz of like what's going on at Sephora and Ulta, I got to see what cosmetic chemists were also looking at and their perspective on things, their experimental design, and all that stuff. And the other nice thing about the Society of Cosmetic Chemists, or SCC website, is that they had an internship and job board, and I used to check that shit religiously. I was so excited that there was a whole Society of Cosmetic Chemists, and I was just like, please give me a job, please give me a job, please give me a job, or internship, whatever the and I always check that page all the time. But other than that, like Chemist Corner was really helpful because it also talked about what it was like working in the industry and of course actual formulation science. Now again, Rebecca Gadberry's UCLA extension class on advanced skincare ingredients was in LA. I was in Davis. I was poor as but I decided to splurge money and save and scrap whatever little part-time income I had to fly down twice and take the part 1 and part 2 of her courses because I was just so desperate to meet other cosmetic chemists because it just seemed so barren in the area that I was. And you know, I wasn't exactly right. There were brands and labs that existed in Northern California, but I was just so clueless. So I took the extension class at UCLA. I networked with another person that was looking to become a cosmetic chemist. She was also a college student, so that was super neat. And I just got to take in firsthand what it was like to do product development for skincare products through this class, through Rebecca and other people who were already working in the industry and just taking the class. And so it was my very first time meeting people. It just gave me more insight into what it was like in the cosmetic industry, and it didn't make me hungrier. It didn't satiate my passion and my desire to break into the industry. If anything, it made me want to find an internship or some kind of opportunity even more. So for 3 years, when I didn't have any kind of opportunity to work in the cosmetic industry, I took on so many lab jobs and I just did so many classes to try to buff up my resume so that when I finally had a chance to show an employer that I was serious and I really wanted to become a cosmetic chemist, I'd be ready. So here are the things I did that were not cosmetic chemistry related to eventually become a cosmetic chemist. Now at Davis, I originally was a chemical engineering major, but I found out quickly within the first quarter or second quarter of being there that I hated all of my chemical engineering classes. And I really enjoyed more of wet chemistry. So I transferred from chemical engineering into chemistry. But I decided one day that maybe I should transfer again from being a regular chemistry major to a pharmaceutical chemistry major because the pharm chem major had more of a requirement of some extra biology classes and biochemistry more so than the regular chemistry major. And I figured if I'm going to be making products that are going to be put on people, I probably should have more of an understanding of biology as well. So that was my reasoning, going from chemistry and switching over to pharmaceutical chemistry. So from experience, I've learned that it actually doesn't matter which chemistry major you go with, chemical engineering, biochemistry, regular chemistry, pharmaceutical chemistry, they all will count and look good when you're trying to apply to become a cosmetic chemist or a lab technician at a cosmetic lab. They are all acceptable. So if you are considering which major you should pick to become a cosmetic chemist, I'd say pick the chemistry related major that most interests you. So I didn't have any cosmetic or even pharmaceutical chemistry related research experience that I could do, and so I figured, you know what? I'm just gonna do everything. And I did everything. I worked in a genetics lab, a nutrition lab, an inorganic chemistry lab. I just worked in any lab that would take me. It's kind of bad. I worked in any lab where I could just do wet chemistry and just do things like being accurate and weighing stuff on an analytical scale or a larger scale, pipetting things so I can work on my dexterity, thinking thoughtfully about experimental design for different projects. I even did a lot of HPLC work working in my inorganic chemistry lab. I did everything that I could, whether or not it was related to cosmetic chemistry. I didn't care. I wanted something to put on my resume and prove, hey, I am a dynamic girl. I can do a lot of different lab work and I can work in many different laboratories and learn the safety and be accurate with my and I know how to talk about my research. So if I could do all of those things, I could work at a cosmetic lab. So on top of doing my chemistry major and working in like 2 or 3 labs at the same time, I don't even remember because it was such a crazy time in my life, I also wanted to show that I could do a lot of and I know how to manage my time well. So I did a Japanese major as well, and also was the secretary and then vice president of a video game club that I co-founded with some friends at UC Davis. And I just probably did not sleep very much during that time, and I was really lucky that I just had this, well, at least my junior and senior year, I was really pretty good at chemistry, and I could get away with minimal studying and still get almost straight A's in my junior and senior year.
Japanese was another story, and it brought down my GPA.
Japanese was more of like a passion major because I'm a nerd, like see PlayStation and like I love games and anime, and so I thought, well, because I can't figure out how to become a cosmetic chemist, maybe I could work in the games or anime industry, so I will do Japanese just in case. And Japanese actually was really helpful in cosmetics, it turns out, because I got to work a lot in Tokyo when I worked for a big brand, so it was useful in the end. And I think that foreign language in general can be useful for any type of job that you do, and in particular Japanese, Korean, Italian, and French I think are really helpful for the cosmetic industry. You don't have to be crazy and major in it like I did, but having that skill set, like any foreign language skill set, I think can be helpful in cosmetic chemistry. So 2 majors, Japanese pharmaceutical chemistry, my club activities for my video game club, and working in a billion labs. I did all these things for 3 years to try to get any cosmetic lab to look at me. And during these 3 years, it's not like I wasn't even applying. I was still desperately trying to reach out to any brand or lab I could find in the Bay Area, or even dermatologists. I'm like,
please let me work for you.
Another thing that I did was I had an old cosmetic chemistry blog called Lily X Ren. It's now defunct because I run Geek Makeup Wisdom now. But Lily X Ren was just me trying to blog about skincare ingredients or color cosmetic ingredients of whatever products that I got for like Christmas, because I couldn't afford to buy anything. And every once in a while I would go and buy something cheap like a Revlon lipstick or something that I could buy at the local CVS or Long's and write about it. And I just tried to learn as much as I could, even though I didn't have the funds to formulate at home. I figured it was better than nothing, and I really wanted to show whoever my future employer that I was serious about becoming a cosmetic chemist. Those were all the things that I did during the 3 years where I just had nothing related to cosmetic chemistry. It took a long time for me to finally get anything, and then my junior year I finally got a hold of a lab in Northern California that made skincare products, and they were looking for a summer intern. So I applied the moment I saw the listing. I think it was on the SEC job boards, but I applied, they called me for an interview, and I was flipping the out because I was like, okay guys, this is it. Finally, I'm gonna get into the cosmetic industry. I am not going to be clueless anymore, and I was just so excited and scared that I was gonna it up after 3 years of looking, and just all these emotions were rushing through me, but had to reassure myself and make sure to paint myself as someone who is passionate, a hard worker, and skillful in the lab. So when I went into that interview, I was scared. I was like, oh my god, if I this up, maybe I will never ever become a cosmetic chemist. And that thought kept coming to my brain, and I was just flipping out. One of the first questions they asked me was, do you have any cosmetic chemistry related experience? And they were looking at my resume because the obvious answer was, no, I didn't. So I spun the out of my resume. And spoiler alert, it worked. So what did I say to get hired by that cosmetic company? One, I'm very, very passionate about cosmetic chemistry. I talked about the different resources that I read on the internet. I talked about going to my UCLA extension courses, and I talked about my blog. I maintained a high GPA in my chemistry major, and I've had lab experience since the first quarter of my freshman year at UC Davis. So right from pretty much the start of my undergraduate career, I had experience in how to behave in a lab, work in a lab, how to be safe in a lab, and I also talked about from there how I, instead of leaving that lab, I just tacked on 2 other labs so I could just buff up my wet chemistry skills and working on the bench. And I assured my future boss that I felt that I had the skill set to work in any kind of lab because of how wide my experience was working in different labs. I also talked about how I knew how to manage my time well while still being able to deliver results. Like how I was able to maintain my grades in my chemistry major, no, my Japanese major, while working at different labs. But really what helped seal the deal for me, I think in that interview, was when my boss asked me 2 things. 1, did I like to cook? And 2, did I know how to follow a recipe or directions for an experiment really well? And yeah, I love to cook. And when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a cream or a serum. I could pick it up very quickly. I really liked cooking, even though I wasn't doing it as much because I literally was poor as I couldn't afford anything, didn't have time for cooking a lot. I still enjoyed it, and I knew how to follow a recipe well, and I knew how to follow the instructions of an experiment well. So yeah, I was pretty confident that I can follow instructions. And that means that I felt pretty confident that if my boss gave me a set of instructions on how to make a cream or a serum, I could pick it up very quickly. I added on to that question that I was familiar with a lot of ingredients, not in their physical form, but by their name and their function, because I had that blog where I wrote about different products and ingredients. So I felt like I could adapt very quickly in a cosmetic chemistry lab. So after all that, I got the job. And that was my first gig into my foray into becoming a cosmetic chemist. Over time, I did that internship and then a second internship, and then they finally hired me when I graduated from UC Davis. I was a cosmetic chemist and I did it. I was so proud of myself, Booscoos. I was so happy that when I got the call that I got the summer internship, I was just bawling. I remember calling my husband. At the time he was my boyfriend. I called him and I was crying. I was crying to my mom and dad, and I was just so happy that I finally found an opportunity to work as a lab tech in a cosmetic chemistry lab and work as a cosmetic chemist. So that whole experience taught me to be persistent. And that's my advice to you if you're trying to become a cosmetic chemist and you feel like you're getting rejected all the time, just keep trying. I got rejected from so many brands and labs, and funny enough, I ended up working for some of them later on, but they rejected me because they didn't want to hire interns. And even just cold calling and applying for different dermatology internships, a lot of them fell through. One of them I got accepted into, and then all of a sudden the dermatologist was like, JK, don't need you. All those things made me really discouraged and sometimes depressed that I would never ever find an opportunity. But I just kept at it. I just kept buffing up my skills, working in the lab, understanding cosmetic ingredients, and I just did whatever I could to prove that I really, really wanted this. And I think that if you're trying to become a cosmetic chemist and you are going through what I did back when I was an undergrad, please don't give up. Your persistence will reward you, because when I was finally walking through the doors into that lab, I do distinctly remember telling myself this was all worth it. All that rejection, all that pain, all that work I put in, it was worth it. And I didn't regret it. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. I'm planning on making more videos similar to this soon about other topics related to becoming a cosmetic chemist. While you're here, if you're not aware of my website, geekmakeupwisdom.com, check it out because I have a few blog articles talking about specific topics and how to become a cosmetic chemist. And if you want to learn how to formulate, my e-course, Introduction to Formulation Chemistry, is in its beta mode right now. And I built this course because I wanted to make an affordable course that college students like myself back then could take. So I wanted to make a virtual e-course to give students that opportunity. Check it out, and I'll see you boostkes in my next video.